Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Right on Track. I am so excited because joining me today is Trace Ellis. Hey Trace.
Hey, Demi, how are you?
I am great, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me. I feel really honored and I'm excited to be here.
Oh, fantastic. I am so honored to have you. This is going to be fantastic. So, before we dive into our chat about trusting inspiration, can you share with all of the listeners a little about yourself and your songwriting journey so far?
Sure. Well, I started out writing music very young, about 8 years old. I grew up in Greenwich Village, New York, down in the city, and my parents were fine artists. So my father was an illustrator, and my mother was a portrait painter. But it was very evident early on that I wasn't going in that direction. I hated putting out paints and cleaning brushes and all that business. But I had a talent for music. So when I was 8, my parents bought a piano from a bar down the street. And I started banging on that thing every day when I came home from school. And I would just like improv do these improvisations, and that went on for quite a bit. I was often My parents would have these cocktail parties and they'd drag me out to play my creations which I hated, but I did it. And to this day I'm sort of shy about performing, and I think it may stem back from those early days. But when I was about 14, I switched to guitar. And around that time, I started to fall into a depression, and I picked up drinking at an early age because I really didn't know who I was. I knew I was different from a very early age, but I didn't have any language to describe myself. And I'm a transgender male, so back in the late 60s and the 70s, there wasn't even language to describe that. So I thought I was the only person in the world who felt the way that I did. And as a result, I really couldn't find my voice as a songwriter. And I would start songs and not be able to finish them. But what I did do is I recorded everything. So I have these two big bags of cassette tapes of stuff that I recorded from my late teens to my early 30s. And it's all very based on inspiration. And when I struggled with alcohol and depression for many years. I continued to play music, but nothing ever really developed until I got sober 10 years ago. I transitioned, and then the world kind of opened up to me. And I finally had an authentic voice, and I was able to finally finish the songs that I was writing. And it's just been putting one foot in front of the other since then. And I just recorded my first single, and I have an EP coming out in a few months. So things are moving right along.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being so open about your story.
Yeah, I mean, I really have to put it in that context or it doesn't make any sense,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
For sure. Yeah, so it's very clear that you brought up inspiration a couple times while you were talking, that's huge for you as a writer. So let's get right into our conversation. Can you read a great quote by Prince?
Yes. He said, sometimes ideas are coming so fast that I have to stop doing one song to get to another. But I don't forget the first one. If it works, it will always be there. It's like the truth. It will find you and lift you up. And if it ain't right, it will dissolve like the sand on the beach.
This is a lovely quote. It's incredible. So, what does this mean to you?
Well, I was thinking about it, and a word stuck out to me, which is ideaphoria. And that word means the ability to generate ideas. And that's like the crux of, I think, what he's talking about. And, sometimes your ideas are coming so fast that you almost have to capture them and go back to them later. And that's one reason why I always record everything, because those inspirations, I can put down a chord progression on the guitar and forget it 5 minutes later if I don't record it. So, yeah, I think what he says is so true, that the ones that are gonna stand up to being finished, that becomes pretty clear once you go back and start to work through them.
For sure. Yeah, I also try to record everything as much as possible and write down all my lyric ideas and free writes and keep those all in files and on my phone and computer. And I think like what he's saying in this quote that really jumps out at me is like when you're writing a song and you get another idea for something else, it's okay to set the first song aside and work on another. And when I started songwriting, I was very focused on okay, this is the song I'm writing, and I'm going to see this through. And then once it's done, I'm going to write another song. And now I write multiple songs at the same time in various stages. And I think that helps me stay inspired because if I start to come out of the magic a little bit on one of them or kind of get writer's block or whatever, then I always have something else that I can go to. And I think having multiple songs going can keep that inspiration and creativity fresh. And then, like you said, and like Prince is saying, the ones that matter and the ones that hold the most potential, like you'll keep going back to them, you'll keep wanting to brush them up more and more and revise them and show them to others for feedback. And those ones will shine. And so, definitely just capture all the ideas and be free with the writing, I think.
It, it's so true. And, I've gone back to those cassette tapes that I had from years ago, and so many of the ideas are really good, and but they're short segments of things. So I have tons of material now that I can go back to whenever I feel stuck or not inspired. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely love that. I think what you kind of said about having so much material to go back to. I recently went through very old songs from like 2018, 2019, and though they're not perfect, and I've definitely grown since then, there are some concepts and lines in there that can definitely be taken and used in new songs. And so I definitely don't think we should discard early ideas just because they're older songs. There's always material in there that we can pull out and use in other songs.
Definitely. I mean, I think I went in my 20s, I went through a wildly creative phase. And that idea of ideaphoria was just the songs were just coming at me constantly.
Hmm.
So, I think in different phases of our life, we are more inspired than others. But to have that ability to go back for me has been priceless.
That's incredible. So we've been talking a lot about this quote, but I want to know for you specifically, what does inspiration mean to you as a writer?
Um, I would say it's the crux of everything for me. It's the catalyst that sets the whole process in motion. Um, you know, I feel like if I can, and inspiration comes to me sometimes right out of the blue. I could be laying on my bed and just a thought will come to me, and it's like, oh, I got to pick up my guitar. And, y- from there, whatever happens, if I let it happen freely and I don't judge it, then usually I get something that's really authentic and feels, even though it may not be perfect musically wise, it might not be in perfect meter, or, the song structure might not be complete. It's got that essence of trueness that I really like to capture in my songs. And then, the job for me is to maintain that while I build it out, not to lose that. And sometimes I do lose it, and that's when those songs go in the garbage can. But
Oh no, I love everything you said. I absolutely love all of that. I think like something I've noticed that I think is really interesting and what inspiration means to me is like it's so mysterious. It comes out of nowhere sometimes and sometimes super unexpected. And I think something I've noticed is like I've been being mindful of what inspires me and certain situations that cause me to go, "Oh, this is an idea for a song," because I've learned so much about myself just from recognizing what sparks my mind to want to write a song. Because if you think about it, like we experience so many things each day of our lives, so many different situations, and not every single one of those makes us feel inspired to write a song. There's only certain things that jump out at us. And I think like when we really take a step back and look at what exactly in our lives is inspiring us to write songs, one, that makes us kind of learn things about ourselves, and two, I think it also allows us to put ourselves in those situations to get that inspiration and set us up for songs to come to us.
yeah, yeah, I know. For me, when I listen to music, I a lot of times I have to turn it off because it's like I get overwhelmed, over flooded, and I just want to pick up my guitar and, emulate whatever they're doing that I like. And then that kind of goes off on its own tangent. And, there's so many external stimulus that can trigger inspiration. And then there's, like you said, that internal, just sort of mysterious feeling of I've got to get something out. I've got to create.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. Inspiration is all around us, always.
Yes, yes, and I think a lot of it too is being open to it, and not letting it pass you by, whether you're on a train or you know whatever you're doing, to just sort of be observant and mindful of what's going on, so that you don't pass up those tiny sparks.
For sure, absolutely. I think it's all about being present in life in general. Like if you're present, you'll notice things. And I think like on the other side of this is like don't force it either. I think I've definitely tried. I'm sure all of us writers have tried to force something that just wasn't working. And so yeah, just being present and being open to inspiration. I think that's so important.
And it's also, I think, getting those negative thoughts out of your head. Um, Sometimes those creep in the later phases of my writing, but I really try and keep them out in the beginning. I think we all have those insecurities. I know for me, um, I can remember specific incidents that to this day, like, ring in my ear sometimes and make me feel insecure. Like, I know, for instance, one time I was banging on the piano. I must have been about 10 years old, and my father came home from work and he yelled, "Do you have to play the same thing over and over again?" And for some reason, that just like really thwarted me for a long time. And, I had to like basically play the piano when he wasn't home.
Oh no.
uh, yeah, and then I remember at one point I was I was asked to play in front of a group of people at like a cocktail party, and and I was just a kid, and one of the men who he was a flamenco guitarist, and he made some comment about the fact that I didn't have rhythm. Well, I was a kid at the time, and I had very little formal training. And obviously, I had rhythm, or I wouldn't have been able to play what I was playing. What I didn't have was a sense of meter. So I had to um, really work on that over the years because, I was basically self taught. So, 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, um, 2/4. I would kind of combine them all, and, uh, and I still do that in the beginning phases of my writing sometimes, and then I'll go back and I'll figure out well, this really needs to be in 4/4, but maybe I'll add a measure in the chorus if it's fitting. So that inspiration, being able to not be held back by those criticisms, but to allow myself to freely, get those ideas out, and then, okay, now I can refine them and put them into proper song structure.
For sure. I really appreciate you opening up about those experiences because we have definitely all been in situations where someone would, even if it's like offhandedly saying something, those things stick with us. And especially like when we're writing, I mean, you have to play things over and over again. I know, like when you're younger, just playing around, but like having that being told to you in your songwriting now and like thinking, oh, but like if I play this over and over and over again, will that get annoying when like as writers we always have to keep going over things over and over again, and that's just one example. But I definitely think like this leads into the trusting the inspiration because sometimes we get ideas for songs and it's like, is this a good idea? Is it not? Will people like this? Is this universal enough? Blah blah, like all of these things. And just like a perfect example of something more recent that I've experienced when I really doubted a song and then realized it's a great one. I wrote a song called Quiet, and very different. Like when I started to explore the idea for the song, I was like, this is totally off the rails. Like, this is so different. I've never heard a song like this ever. And then I just wrote the song in like a half hour. And then I showed it to a songwriter who's like a platinum songwriter and for his opinion and everything. And he was like, to me, this is like the coolest song you've ever written, and you have to record this. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And so sometimes, like, you need that reassurance from somebody else, but I shouldn't have, doubted that idea. Luckily, I went through with it, but I did have a moment of, is this good or not? And so I think as we continue to write and keep doing this, we'll get those feelings, but find ways of pushing past them and trusting the inspiration.
Well, and also, I don't think I'm always the best judge of what is a good song that I've written. I mean, one of the simplest songs that I ever wrote is one that gets the best, response when I play it out. And I'm always like, but don't you guys realize this song doesn't even have a bridge?
Oh no, no bridge. Uh
No
oh.
bridge.
I will never ever
but
write one without a bridge. That's my thing.
so I think sometimes we have to just plow through and let others decide what is good and what's not.
So, over the years of feeling these, emotions and mistrusting the inspiration, aside from showing others and just kind of rolling with it on your own, have you found any tips that work for you that help you to not judge the ideas that you get?
Um, well, I'll go back to what I said earlier is I'm a big proponent of tape recording. And what I'll do is I just put the tape recorder on for like 20 minutes and I'll just jam out. And then I'll wait a day or two and I'll go back and I'll listen and I can decipher, what what sounds good, what sounds fresh, and what doesn't. Um, and just, I think having and for me, I feel like my music is coming through me. Like I try and think of it as I'm not the originator of it. It's like flowing through me from some higher force. And that sometimes not only makes me feel that it's all sacred and that it's not for me to judge really, but it also takes the pressure off of me, because I'm not, the ego, the big songwriter. I'm just the sort of medium through which the music flows.
That's a really interesting perspective. I love that. I also really like what you said before about like allowing yourself to take a step back after you record something or get some record of it in some way, whether that be a recording or lyrics or whatever, and kind of revisiting it later with a fresh
Hmm.
perspective. I do that a lot, and I've found like I've always had the mindset of I need to get through the not so great songs to get to the best ones. And so when I get ideas, I never discard them because one, I never know what it could become. And two, if that's not a good song, that's fine because I have to get that out in order to get to a good one. And so I
Yep.
never really like throw things away. I always start them, and even if I don't finish it, at least I kind of give it a shot. But definitely revisiting it later is really important, especially after like writing a whole song. Even the ones that I end up recording, I always like have them pretty polished and then set them aside for a couple weeks. And then before I go to my session at the studio, like a couple weeks before that, I'll revisit it again, and that new perspective of being separated from it for so long kind of gives a new
Yeah.
perspective too. And then sometimes I get different rushes of inspiration, like different points of the song, depending on how I'm feeling, and having to kind of put myself back into the headspace I was in when I wrote the song. And so I think having the ability to revisit the song at different places and different points in time can bring new perspectives and just help make it more round and give it a better chance to be the best it can be.
Yeah, it's funny because my phone is constantly like, I get messages. Your storage is full.
Oh,
You
me
have
too. Every
2%.
day. Every day. Oh my
Because
gosh, literally.
I record so much on there, and I don't want to erase it. Then I'm putting everything in Dropbox. But that it's so true that it's a process, and I think for me the freer and the kind of looser I can be in the beginning of that process, the better, because my songs are always changing, and I have songs that I wrote 20 years ago that I just recently rewrote. And because I know a lot more about songwriting now than I did then. But yeah, so I mean, sometimes I feel like my songs are never quite done. Even the ones that I've recorded, like I have a single out now, and I'm like, well, I could have done high harmonies on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the struggle. Yeah, completely. But it's important to have ways of determining what the best songs are to record or play live. And this kind of ties back to Prince's quote, and that the ones that matter and the best ones will always, keep showing up and grabbing your attention. So for you, what are some deciding factors that always make you go, okay, this is a great one that I can record or perform?
I would say one of the key factors to me is memorability. If it sticks in my head and I find myself singing the melody in the shower, or as I'm driving down the road, I usually know I'm onto something. Um, another thing would be, if I can take those original sort of free flowing ideas and fit them into a structure, like, a 4/4 structure, or a dance structure or whatever. Um, if I can't do that, if it feels awkward, then I'm usually running into some sort of roadblock. And sometimes I'll just keep maybe a verse, a melody verse, or even a chorus verse and save it for something else because, we all have tendencies in our songwriting, and some of my chord progressions, overlap. So I can kind of take one idea and put it into a new song if I think that the original one isn't going to work.
That's fantastic. I love that. I feel like, picking and choosing and crafting different songs over top of a chord progression or from a melody or lyrics from another idea. I think like we all do that all the time. And I think memorability is so important, especially when writing commercial music. You want the chorus to be catchy and memorable and repetition and rhyme and all that. But I think for me, like something I always try to really focus on is making sure that I connect to it very strongly. All my songs are rooted in my life, they're all very authentic. And so I need to make sure that that song is so meaningful to me because when I go to record, I have to believe every word I'm singing. And so I always make sure that all the songs that I'm recording and releasing are ones that I really connect to. And on the other side of that, something I keep in mind is making sure that the songs that I do end up recording aren't too personal, that they're not relatable, because I definitely want my music to have a universal quality to it, and having that universal quality will allow others to connect to it. And so I always am trying to balance out being personal and being universal, and sometimes that can be really difficult because when I'm writing a really personal song, I put in all of these details that are specific to me, but then I also have to be mindful of pulling back and being more general in places so others can relate. And so that's something I'm always mindful of.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, I'm aiming towards writing for sync.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Definitely
so
different.
I yeah, and I'm trying to I don't want my lyrics to be so general that they're sappy, but
Mm hmm.
you can't get too specific
Right.
in sync lyrics.
Mm
So,
hmm.
that balancing act is so important when it comes to that. And I've had to go back and sort of change some of the lyrics in some of my songs that I think might be applicable for sync. But yeah, it can be tough sometimes deciding what is good and what isn't, and what is going to appeal to an audience, and what I mean, I tend to write like pretty heavy themed songs. And I wrote a song about police brutality, and I've written songs about social justice, and those always are kind of difficult and weigh heavy on my heart, as are they going to come across in the right way? But you have to, I think, trust your gut and then vet it.
Right, for sure. I mean, no matter what you're writing about, like you have to believe it. And so if you're writing about something you believe in, then I think that will come off authentic. So yeah, I think that's really important to be mindful of. So to wrap up here, for any songwriters listening who are struggling to trust their inspiration, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
Put aside all those negative thoughts, turn on your tape recorder, and just play from your heart. and like I said before, keep it on for like 20 minutes, and then just let it sit there for a while. um, and then you can go back and see what you've created. um, I think it's really important to believe in yourself, and to not take ourselves too seriously at the same time. So mindfulness is really important to me. When I sit down to write, I kind of try and clear my mind of my worries and um, whatnot. But sometimes inspiration comes from difficult feelings as well. It's not always, we tend to think of inspiration as a happy feeling, but sometimes it can be a dark feeling or a difficult emotion as well. So I would say, to whenever you feel like a really strong emotion of any kind, to try and pick up your guitar or write lyrics around that, or to grab those moments that it happens so that, when you're not feeling inspired, you have something to go back to.
Perfect. That's perfect to wrap up on because I love how you brought up how inspiration isn't always happy. It comes from many different emotions. And that's so important to note because sometimes when I'm feeling darker emotions, I can shy away from letting myself feel that because I don't want to feel that. But then at the same time, like some of my best songs come from feeling sad or pissed off or whatever. So I think like I've allowed myself to feel more over the past couple years that I've been writing so much. And something else that you said that I loved was play from your heart because that's so important. I think like when we're feeling inspired and we want to write music, we just have to speak our truth and play from our hearts and just let the truth out, our truth out. And if we do that, then we'll come up with something amazing. It might not be our best song, but it'll be something real to us. And I think that's always the goal is to be authentic. And so, yeah, trust that inspiration, be truthful, follow your heart, and you'll write great
And
music.
record, record,
Record,
record.
record, record, yes, record everything. Record everything. Like, I would be out at dinner sometimes, and if I would get like a lyric idea, I don't even care if I'm in the middle of eating, I would just pull out my phone and type it in. Same thing like in the middle of the night, like any time of day. You have to write it down because you always say, "Oh, I remember." You never do.
Yeah, no, I never do. It's amazing how my mind is like a sieve when it comes to
Mhm.
musical ideas.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Trace, it was awesome having you. Before you go, can you share with everyone where they can find you on social and listen to your music?
Sure. I don't have a website yet. I'm just building up my music so I can have something to put on there. But I have a Facebook page, Trace Ellis Music, and I have a single out, No One's Gonna Take You Away, which is on Spotify and all streaming platforms. And I will be having an EP coming out in probably about 3 months. So that will also be on all streaming platforms. And by that time, I'll have a website. So I'm getting there.
Awesome. Well, good luck with the EP. I am currently working on one too. I just finished recording it on Sunday, so we're getting into the mixing now, so I'm excited.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Awesome.
I have been fortunate enough to find a really good producer from
Mm-hmm.
Canada, Rob Wells.
Rob
So
Wells! Oh my god, I love
yeah,
Rob! Oh my
yeah,
god.
he's doing my EP.
He
So
is
I'm really excited.
amazing. I love Rob. Shout out to Rob. We love Rob. He's amazing.
Yeah, we do love him. He's so funny too. He's the nicest guy.
Oh my gosh.
He just cracks me up. We text back and forth, and it's like I'm trying to be funny,
Oh my
He's
gosh.
just his
Oh, he's
humor is so
great.
good.
He's great. Oh my gosh. I have a mentor session with
So,
him like next week, actually on my birthday. Everyone, we're recording this on May 24th. My birthday's May 30th. I actually have a mentor session with him on my
uh,
birthday. But oh my god, I love Rob.
cool.
All right. I just went on
Yeah.
a big tangent about how much I love Rob Wells, but he's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been great.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And you're doing so much great work, Demi. It's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
You've
Thank you
got a
so
huge
much.
career in front of you.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. Well, it's such an honor having you. Listeners, thank you for listening to this episode with Trace Ellis. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay right
right
on
on
track.
track.